You're listening to the Clean Comedy Podcast with James Creviston and Luke LaCoy.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Clean Comedy Podcast. It's James, and today it's our 250th episode. Now, it being our 250th episode, thank you, Danny. That's great. There is no Luke, though, so there's a big hole in my heart and for this episode because it's like we hit a milestone, but we don't have the normal co-host, the person that I started this podcast with. Now, anyone who's worried that Luke won't be back or that we don't have a co-host or anything, don't worry. Luke will come back, and we'll fill in co-host roles with Danny or David Studebaker or, well, who knows? We'll run the gambit of people. But then if not, it'll just be me interviewing people. I have a good podcast that's coming up after this one. It's getting edited right now, and it is with Garen Chu, who is a comedian in Hong Kong, which is right. It's awesome. Like,
worthy of 251 right there.
Yeah, that is 251. Garen Chu is 251. He's from Hong Kong. I've been to Hong Kong, not to do comedy. I was there in the Navy. We have a conversation about that on the episode. And I learned a ton about the Asian comedy scene, how it works, like the opportunities there, and then also a little bit about the European comedy scene. He actually, one of the things, and I don't want to spoil everything, but one of the things he talked about is in the UK, like comedians like you and I, Danny, right, who have no TV credits, would probably have TV credits by now.
You said that's in the UK?
Yeah, I know, right? That's what I said. I said, I'm not going to tell my wife because she's like a big British TV show fan and whatever. And now, once David Studebaker hears this, he's going to move to the UK because he loves
We're all gonna just randomly go to like Ireland and just all of a sudden be stars of murder mystery shows / comedy tours. It's going to be great.
Listen, if they want to bring an American into like make a new Monty Python and I could be an American that does Monty Python, I'm 100% into that, right?
We do a lot worse than James Creviston and Danny Hawawini.
Yeah, that's right. We could go run. I mean, I would love to do that. But David would want to get into like being on a murder mystery show to be like the lead detective of a murder mystery, and he would fake a bad British accent the entire. People would hate it.
It would be terrible.
But it would probably, you know what? The sad thing is, it would probably do great. And that's
it would be like one of those hate watches where they'd be like, look at this American doing a British accent, and they'll hate it, but they'll watch it. Every week for 700 episodes. It'll be like the Doctor Who of murder mystery shows. Get that on Channel 4 right away.
Yeah. And that's the other thing is like, so there is a lot of opportunities in Asia too to tour, to go to a bunch of countries. There's like an Asia tour that a lot of comedians do where they go to like Hong Kong and China and Japan. And I think he said Thailand and somewhere else, but he's Singapore or Sri Lanka, one of those places like that. So I was like, that's pretty cool. Like, but the cost to go to Hong Kong is expensive. Like a flight is like $2,000, like one way, I think.
Yeah, and what's I would have to imagine there's a pretty crazy language barrier, especially for like Americans like us, right? Or is there there's an English comedy scene? I guess American comedy scene?
Yeah, well, what it is there's a lot of expats that live over there. And Garen will talk about this too on the podcast. There's a lot of expats over there. So a majority of the people going to watch comedy are English. And in places like China and stuff, English is also taught there. So they understand English, but they have a big like censor rule for stuff. So some shows like bigger comedians can't really perform there. Like he said, like Jim Jeffries had an issue. They wanted to censor his act and they wanted to read everything he was going to say before he could say it and change. So he's like, nah, I'm not doing that. So I guess he canceled it, which makes sense. It's China, right? So we all know that.
And he'll be fine without that audience.
Right. Yeah. It's not going to hurt Jim Jeffries' career. I'll tell you that right now.
No. Yeah.
So this is 250. It's really been a roller coaster ride for, at least for me. I wish Luke was here so he could kind of give his viewpoint, but I'm guessing it's probably the same thing. I mean, we started the podcast in a coffee shop. Bad idea, right? Don't do that. Then we moved to my apartment, which was great. And then we eventually moved to Zoom and doing it this way because he moved to
Didn't we
Orange
all?
County. Yeah, that's the word. Actually, we were kind of ahead of the schedule on that. Like we started.
You were already prepared.
Yeah, so I was like, all right, this is not too bad. The world's okay.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but it's also opened a lot of opportunities for us. We've been able to go do things because of the podcast. We've been able to go and do some shows and stuff, places that we normally wouldn't get to do, interview people that we wouldn't get to interview. Barry Katz being one of them, which I thought was amazing.
Nice.
That was fun. It opened up doors of like people can see how I talk and how I respond to people and, just kind of how I am. And they go, oh, I would like to work with you on X, Y, and Z. Like I just got a opportunity to possibly be on a pop culture podcast as a third co-host. I don't know what you call it if there's a third one. A co-host is singular. A co-host.
Yeah, a co-host.
Co-host. So I think that's what it is. So we'll see. And we'll see how that goes.
Nice.
And they not only do like stuff like this, but then they also go out and do live shows where they like on Comic-Con panels and all kinds of stuff. So I'm hoping that it would be great. And I just made some good connections this week with some people, and I got to meet one of my favorite Magic the Gathering people, so it was pretty sweet.
So that's going well.
yeah. Are you how familiar with Magic? No.
I mean, very familiar with the concept. I was a nerdy, and I say that in a positive way. I was a nerdy kid growing up, but that was always kind of just outside of the rear, or just outside of the main view. I was always more into like comics, Marvel stuff, and little bit of Pokemon cards. But yeah, Magic was always one of those things that it's like I respect the hustle, but I just never bought a pack.
But you are a football fan, right? You're a sports fan, right?
Yes, I'm a very weird, nerdy stuff, but also sports stuff.
So you may know the person that I met this weekend. I met Cassius Marsh, who used to play for the Seattle Seahawks and one other team. I want to say San Francisco, but I could be wrong on that.
Okay. The name doesn't ring a bell. I want to look him up.
He's a big dude. You know when you see him. Big
he
blonde
in the NFL, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Big blonde, lots of tattoos, really cool. But he is big in the Magic the Gathering.
Oh, he definitely looks familiar. Okay.
Yeah, he played in the NFL. I want to say Seahawks, and I want to say 49ers, but I could be wrong on that second.
You are correct. Seahawks, Patriots, 49ers, Cardinals, Jaguars, Colts, and Steelers.
Dang. That's a
gentleman out of UCLA.
Yep. So he lives down the street from where I live, and he runs a card shop in Westlake. Cash Cards Unlimited, and it's awesome. It's a cool little place. And I just went over to this weekend. What's that?
I was gonna say, I'm looking at his Wikipedia. It makes me sad that he's done all these things. He's in the NFL for however many different teams. He owns a shop, and dude was born in '92. He's a kid. Yeah. No offense, Cassius. But
he is the nicest person, though. He's so nice. Like, he was like, thank you for coming to my store. I really appreciate it. I was like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, I appreciate you having a store. It's awesome. He's like super cool. So I'm going to go on Friday and play Magic at his store, and he'll be there to play too. So hopefully I get to play against him, and he'll crush me. I know he will, because he has like the most expensive cards in Magic ever, and he's a good player, but it'll be fun to play regardless.
Yeah. It is funny when you're like in the aura and the vicinity of people that are like at that, like my my sister-in-law's brother was an NFL quarterback, and we were like playing catch, like baseball one day, and long toss, and he's popping my glove from however many yards away, and I was kind of shaking my hand. I was like, oh yeah, duh, the guy clearly has a cannon for an arm, so yeah, go figure, it's gonna pop your glove from some 40 yards away or whatever it is. It was like, yeah, they are built differently.
Yeah. Now the good thing about today is it's not baseball day for us. It's not. We recorded this on Monday. It's Dodgers Giants. It'll be Game 3 tomorrow, so we're good right now.
Game 3 tonight. Game 4 tomorrow.
Oh, is it Game 3 tonight?
They're playing.
What?
It was scoreless last I checked.
No.
I know. Sorry, folks. Thank you for joining us tonight for the Clean Comedy Podcast.
I feel like, no offense to you guys, but like this is my time of year. Like, I grew up in Texas. Texas Rangers. Nolan Ryan was the man. I watched a lot of baseball growing up. I would go to big games all the time. I saw Frank Thomas hit home runs. I saw Jose Canseco. Like, I saw all the big players back in the day playing Barry Bonds, Darryl Strawberry, like in Ranger Stadium. I met and had a signed ball. I don't know where the ball is now. My mom took it. I am sorry about that. But from the Minnesota Twins, the year that they won the World Series, and Kirby Puckett. You correct. Kirby Puckett signed my ball. I wish I knew where that ball was. It means the world to me. Now, for my last birthday, it was my 40th birthday. I turned 40, just in case you guys are wondering how old I am. Very old.
Woo-hoo.
My wife bought me a signed Nolan Ryan baseball when we were in Texas. So from Nolan Ryan's, it's from Nolan Ryan's, I don't know what it's called, like charity. It's not really a charity. It's something other thing, but like
foundation.
Yeah, foundation. There it is. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
got a signed Nolan Ryan baseball. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. So it was really cool.
I pitched growing up, and whatever team you root for, you also rooted for Nolan Ryan. You know, he was just one of those, you know, he's like, not to say, you know, same idea with Michael Jordan, right? Not to say Nolan Ryan is the Michael Jordan of baseball.
He is.
You know, I think that'd be either Bonds or Mays or, you know, something like that. But it's one of those things where it's like, whatever team you root for, there are also certain players you'd root for them.
Well, I don't think anybody's done 5,000 strikeouts. He's the only one that I know of that's ever done that, right?
I mean, yeah, he was, yeah, he's one of one, you know. I don't know if anybody's ever going to get to that point because nobody's just going to throw that many innings for that long.
No, it doesn't happen that much anymore. Anyways, so just so you know, I just looked up the score. The Giants have scored 1. So
Evan Longoria went for those of you that are listening to this podcast somehow live. Also, how the hell did you get?
No, why are you here? But yeah,
get off the Zoom.
Yeah, so that's how the year's gone better and better. More writing projects for us. Luke and I collaborated on some things with some people, so we working on things. The podcast, and this is, I would say to anybody who, whatever your dream is, it doesn't matter what your dream is. If it's comedy or writing or whatever, any type of performing, do as many things as you can, because something else could open a door that maybe stand-up didn't open for you, but writing might open that door that comes back to stand-up, or a podcast might open a door that goes back to writing. It doesn't matter. Do the things you want to do and do multiple things. If I learned anything in this entire 250 episode journey, the number one thing that people always said was do as much as you can, do other things, be out there making things, because that's ultimately what we do.
Yeah, I think that's really cool that you have, especially a platform like this, because you talk to so many people that are so creative and obviously varying degrees of success, that it's like, if you can sort of get that info, and I know the logo is a you know, bar of soap, but if you can sponge it instead, you know what I mean, and get all that info, I mean, that's valuable stuff. I mean, that's a screaming advertisement to subscribe and go and listen to the feed here, you know.
Yeah, well, the bar soap, you know what the bar soap is supposed to be, right? You know what that bar soap's from?
I mean, it's a Fight Club reference, yeah?
Yeah, it's a Fight Club reference. So right, I'm telling everybody that this is our club. We're all in this together. It's a kind of one of those things. It's supposed to be a joke. At the same time, it's supposed to represent, like, you know, the Fight Club thing. Now, we're not going to go use that to build bombs and blow stuff up.
I was going to say, if it's not Project Mayhem, we gotta think of something fun over here. Project Giggles. I don't know. That doesn't sound good, but
what's Project Giggles? There's another word for laughter that starts with an M that we could use instead. So I don't know what it is, but I'm sure it is.
Figure it out.
Yeah. So that's the big thing about comedy, is that we've learned from writers, from agents, from managers, from, I mean, literally every possible person we could talk to. We've tried to talk to, and we're reaching out to more. And the good thing about this podcast is every time somebody listens or subscribes, it puts our numbers up, and then it's something we could show to somebody and say, hey, I know you weren't interested last year, but look what's happening this year, right? And that it's driven a lot of big things, a lot of people coming on that I normally wouldn't get, a lot of people that I can reach out to. I'm going to reach out to, Karen told me about this guy, Paul Agato. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a Japanese Hawaiian comedian from Hawaii who so I guess he's pretty big but I watched some of his stuff. He's really funny. I feel like I've seen him somewhere before and I just don't remember where. So
one of those like familiar faces, acts, voice, something like that.
He was just on Celebrity Family Feud, so that's one thing he was on. But like, I've seen him on some other stuff. No, obviously, I don't watch Family Feud that much. I mean, I love Steve Harvey. Don't get me wrong, but I've never watched. I haven't watched. I mean, I've watched the clips on YouTube of Steve Harvey because he always like corrects. Like, it's always somebody saying something terrible. He's like, "Oh, you shouldn't say that," type thing. You know?
Yeah, dude is a meme factory. His reactions are great.
His reactions are the best, and that's really what sells his stuff. Now,
I just picture his little
mustache, with his eyes like yeah. It actually reminds me a lot of Cosby's faces from back. I know we shouldn't use that name, but like the faces back in the day of him doing that. So no, it is funny, right? I mean, I'm sure to some degree, maybe even subconsciously, he's like modeling his reactions after Cosby. You know, obviously the comic, the act, not so much the guy, but I mean, it is funny, right? It's, you know, last time I was on the podcast, we were just talking about like influences, and they're influences for a reason, you know, and so many people I'm sure would you know, despite everything that's happened, still obviously cite Bill Cosby as, you know, a reference, and looking at his comedy as something that they, you know, aspire towards. And it's like, you don't always think about it, but, you know, using the sponge analogy earlier, it just forms your personality. It forms your tics, your mannerisms. And so, I mean, I'm sure a guy like Harvey, it's not an accident that, you know, his reactions may look, you know, a little bit like Cosby's would, you know, Cosby's little, like, you know, whatever. We know the face again, right? But if you're listening to this, you need to go back and watch the episode so you can see what Danny just did, because that's important. It was a good one, actually.
Was it? Oh, thank you. I was gonna say, if we're doing Cosby impersonation, maybe should we avoid Cosby impersonation?
I think we probably should over the most part.
For the take a sip of the wobble.
I always do chocolate cake in my house, so the chocolate cake bit. So it is hard not to, because I grew up on that, and that's the other thing is comedy evolves too, right? Like we go from like growing up watching certain comedians to then maybe being like, oh, and there's this new person like Dave Chappelle's the hot ticket right now, you know, and everybody's but I watched Dave Chappelle way back in the day when he did Killing Me Softly, and nobody really knew who he was, like unless you know were African American, you probably didn't know Dave Chappelle, and now he's just like a
scrawny little stoner, man.
Yeah, and then, you know, and then Chappelle's show blew up, and then everybody's like, oh, I know Dave Chappelle. You know, same thing with Key and Peele. Like, their first season did well, but it was still niche, and now they're like the largest duo there is, you know, and now they're not doing stuff together. They're doing things separately mostly, but.
Right. It's crazy what the internet does for those things, too. But, you know, like you look at Key and Peele, I mean, you put their skits on, or their sketches, you know, on whatever, you know, Twitter, on YouTube, whatever it is, the little bite-sized chunks that just get you hooked. I mean, you know, older comics, like even you look at like Eddie Murphy, who is one of the biggest comics in the world, you know, huge on Saturday Night Live. Both specials on DVD. I owned, my mom bought me, when I was a kid, Beverly Hills Cop, not knowing anything about his routine, just knowing he's a comedian. So I'm a little kid, and she was like, oh my God, what is this? It was great. But yeah, you know, it's like, not to say, just imagine how much bigger Eddie Murphy would have been if he was a comic like in his prime in today's day and age, with the internet being what it is. Be like, holy moly, who is this guy? You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you go back and watch Raw, or you know, Delirious, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like even then he was like amazing. And then, you know, Chris Rock took after that, and now we have Chris Rock. Thank goodness, Chris Rock's amazing. He's one of my favorites. Like Bigger and Blacker is probably one of my favorite stand-up comedy things of all time. Like I watch it every year for my birthday, because it came out on my birthday when I think I turned 15 or 16. It came out on July 10th, so it came out on my birthday. I watched it. I stayed up and watched it, and I was like, this is it. And I mimicked Chris Rock when I first started. I would pace the stage because I thought that's what you do, right? That's
what you do.
And someone had to stop me and say, "Hey, don't do that. It makes people uncomfortable." Because in a comedy club, you're too close to people to do that. On a big stage, it makes sense, right? Because you're trying to
you got to address thousands of people, but it's like, yo, man, there's like 10 of us here. Just
because it's aggressive too. You know, like,
very aggressive.
Yeah. Oh, I've got, and I'm kind of a stockier dude. I've got a big black leather jacket on, like Andrew Dice Clay, and
I was just gonna say, all right, Dice man.
Yeah, right. And I'm you know, doing back and forth on the stage, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I was like, that's how I do it. But it was terrible. It was funny, and people enjoyed it, but I had to learn not to be that guy. And also, when I first started, the comedy coach I had wanted me to do a very much Andrew Dice Clay type
How
thing.
funny.
Because I am like kind of a bigger guy. I look kind of aggressive.
Yeah. You can have that same kind of energy.
Yeah. And I was like, and I love Clay. Don't get me wrong. I love Clay. He's right. Yeah. Like I grew up on Little Miss Muffet and all this. Like I know.
Iceman coming back.
Yep. And but I was like, I can't do that. So that really changed, and it really changed my view on how I wanted to do comedy. And so, you know, I knew Regan, but I always thought Regan like kind of flew under the radar for a long time, and he's still not as popular as I think he should be. You know?
Yeah. That's interesting. It got me thinking while you were talking about some of the sets that like really formed like your style. You know, I know it's like an impossible task to say like, what's your favorite? But like if you had like a Mount Rushmore or even just like 2 or 3 that like you could just watch on repeat, like what would those be, you think, for you at least?
I have my 4 in my room over my bed, actually. So it is Rodney Dangerfield.
Swear to God, I was thinking Dangerfield too.
He's one of my favorites.
That's so funny. Get out of my head. Okay.
Steve Martin, like the original Steve Martin stuff that he did in San Francisco. I absolutely love it.
Yep.
The Button Down Mind of Bob Newhart. I absolutely love that because I love like his like one-sided phone conversation pieces. Like just to me, they're like, I don't know, they're just amazing. And then either I couldn't say if it would be Delirious or Raw, but it'd be Eddie Murphy regardless. Those are my top 4 always, because those are the 4 that influenced me growing up. Because when I was growing up, those 4 people were either in movies or on TV, and I had no clue they were stand-up comedians, but their comedy style spoke to me. I mean, Rodney Dangerfield and Caddyshack totally made me like, I was like, when I get rich, I'm going to act just like that. Like literally that's how I thought I would be. And Eddie Murphy, in every single Eddie Murphy movie I saw, I got who he was. And Bob Newhart had this neurotic yet smart and smug kind of style that I got with. And then I grew up watching The Jerk. Like I absolutely love The Jerk. So it's like it was Dumb and Dumber before there was Dumb and Dumber type thing. You know?
Yeah.
So, the cans, you know, like just like all the stuff that he did. It was just like there's not a way for me not to like. And then I found out they were all stand-up comedians, and something clicked for me. Like, oh, this is what I need to learn more about. Now, of modern day stuff, it would be Seinfeld, Chris Rock, probably Regan, and then oh gosh, who would be my 4th one for that? That's tough. That's a tough one.
It's a fun exercise, at least, though.
It is. I don't know. There's so many people. Like, you know what? It would probably end up being, and I'm sorry, Robert G. Lee, as much as I love you, it would probably be Tom Papa. Tom Papa has influenced me the most in my later time
I can see that. You got some Papa energy on you.
Yeah, I love him. He's like, I met him 3 times, and I like every time. It's like meeting your best friend, like seeing your best friend again after you've been gone for a long time. Like he probably doesn't feel that way.
It's weird, yeah.
But I feel that way. I feel, or like, or that uncle that you really like, but you only get to see like every Thanksgiving and that's it, you know, type thing. So it's like,
yeah.
What about you?
Like
who would be your top 4?
I mean, if I had to like kind of mix classic with like, you know, more
you can do classic first and then like modern if you want to do it that way.
Oh man, I mean, I would say like classics. I mean, like I love Carlin, how he made politics funny without being overly like, ooh, this person bad, this person good.
Right.
You know, he was very smart about it, and just sort of you know, against the system in a way that kind of spoke to everybody, I think. Dangerfield as well. I just thought he was just so funny. Like he was so animated, you know, he could do so many different things. I still remember, I don't know where the heck I found this, but like being a kid and having almost like a comic book, like a picture book, or a comic book. But it was a Rodney Dangerfield book, that was just about like, just the whole thing, like, I get no respect. And like the whole thing was literally like a Garfield style, like comic strip book with like basically the punchline of every joke being, you know, obviously I get no respect.
What?
And I'm trying to remember, like, again, I couldn't even tell you, like, I'm just looking, I get no respect paperback. Oh, actually, there it is. I think, is this it? Oh, it's only $5 on Amazon, or on eBay rather. It's literally just called No Respect by Rodney Dangerfield.
Wow.
But yeah, it's just a random little thing. But Dangerfield, Carlin, I mean, obviously Chappelle. I think he crosses over, like, because like you said, Killing Him Softly, like to this day, I can just watch that thing, like, and it's still just as funny today as it was back then.
Yeah.
Robin Williams, watching him just literally sweat through his shirt. I mean, the energy he put into his performance was crazy. More modern stuff, I'd still throw Chappelle in there because, again, whatever he comes out with, I'm like, it's at least worth watching. Is it going to be like the best thing he's ever come out with? Who's to say? Let's watch, but like, it's going to be worth watching for me. I really like Jim Gaffigan. I think he has like a really funny, like, observational style. I love Michelle Wolf. I don't know if you've watched Nice Lady.
Yeah, I did. It's really good. It was on Netflix originally, I think, right?
Was it? Okay. Yeah.
I watched it on Netflix, I think. Netflix or Amazon, one of those two, but I like it. I liked it a lot.
She has such like a funny feminist, but still but it's not like,
right.
I don't know. It's just so good. It's so funny. So Nice Lady is one that I can just watch on repeat. I don't know what my fourth would be. I'd have to sit here and noodle on it, and that would be a bad podcast listen. Give me 10 minutes, audience.
I do love Gaffigan. I just know that Regan inspired me more than Gaffigan did. And don't get me wrong, I could watch almost every Gaffigan except for Cinco over and over again. Sorry, Cinco, that was not the best. That was not the best one you did. Gaffigan. And I've seen him live too, so I really enjoy. Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was so good.
Gaffigan also, I love. I really like take in sets, but also just in my everyday life of like narrating the person that's reacting to the thing you're saying.
Yeah.
I think that's just such a funny
hey buddy,
such a funny like thing that he does. Yeah. Oh my god. Whatever voice he wants to throw out there. Yeah, I mean, there are like Ricky Gervais, I think, is really funny. I know he's kind of an acquired taste for a lot of people, I think. I think obviously, kind of in the same vein, like we were talking about with Cosby, Louis C.K., I think, like in terms of his comedy voice, I think was something that also just really like spoke to me. It's just the self-deprecation act, I think, is just like everybody always says, obviously one of the golden rules of comedy is like punch up, you know what I mean? And he makes like, he somehow punches down, but like on himself, and like I don't know, he makes it like a really interesting thing. So yeah, again, obviously everything around him, but Louis C.K. Is there as well. Ricky Gervais, though, I saw him live, and he was really funny. I love also that he's like huge on like animals, like he supports like all those causes and adoption and PETA and whatever it is. So I'm like, hey, he's a good guy where it matters to me,
Yeah, and I saw Louis C.K. I saw him in Oxnard a couple years ago, and it was fantastic. The only problem was I was in the middle of writing new jokes, and I had gone to see Seinfeld the summer before in Vegas, and as I was listening, it made me come up with ideas and premises, and I just put them in my phone and made me think of stuff, because like how I was like, oh, that's a great premise, but that's not what I would say, right? Type thing. And I wanted to do that for Louis C.K., but we had to put our phones in these little bags, so you couldn't do that. So I was like, oh man. And when I left, I tried to remember stuff. I only think I came away with like 3 jokes when I could have came away with like 20 jokes, just based on like stuff that premises that he came up with that I would have gone a total different way with, because we're not the same person. But I love his style, and I do like that self-deprecation. And that's my comedy also reflects that too. Like, even though I'm talking about my wife and my kids and whatever, I'm making fun of myself as the dad or the husband in those situations, and trying to do it that way,
Well, and it gives you liberty to make fun of other groups, other people, again, obviously not like you're really, again, not punching down, but it's like, if I'm sitting here and if I'm making fun of myself, or if I'm making fun of like Middle East culture, and then I'm going to make a joke about a different culture, it's like, well, hopefully you obviously understand that I don't actually hate or like feel some kind of way about another group of people. It's just, we're all out here telling jokes, man. I'll make fun of myself just as much as I make fun of other people. I think the more people actually get to know me, like outside of comedy, hopefully know if I make fun of you, it means that I like you.
Right.
Like I would never make fun of somebody I don't like, because that's like them fighting words basically at that point. And I'm a lover, not a fighter.
And that's the Jeff Ross thing of, right, like only roast the ones you love, like only make fun of people that like out of likeness. And that's what we do growing up too, at least where I grew up at. Like, no one would I guess the word's called busting on you. I guess that's what it's called. But like doing the dozens or making fun of you or whatever, if they didn't like you, like, you know, they weren't doing it to be mean. They were doing it to see like, how are you going to react? Are you something that I want to be cool with and hang out with, or are you just going to be a baby about stuff and then I don't want to hang out with you type thing? So that was always a good thing. And you made me think of something else. I can't remember now. I don't even remember. Oh, I was going to say the only people that I hate are people that don't use their turn signals.
Oh, that's tough. I have a lot of driving pet peeves.
Yes.
A lot.
Well, mine is always turn signals though. Always.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, that is obviously annoying. It's like, oh, okay, you can't just let me know what's up. It's just, it's a lack of courtesy.
Well, because then they just like go over and you're like, wait, whoa, what are you doing, guy?
Yeah. The other thing I really strongly dislike is when there's like an exit lane and everybody's clearly, you know, in the exit lane and you're backed up and then you just see that car coming up and you're like,
yes,
this dude thinks he's clever. And all of a sudden they just cut somebody off or they just brake and block traffic and signal in. It's like, my guy, you saw everybody here lining up. Like you wouldn't do that in a grocery store. You wouldn't do that in, you know, whatever it is, but everybody thinks they're like impervious to, once they're in their car, they're like, well, they can't talk to me. They can't see my face really, you know, and it's like, it's bad juju, man. I don't like it.
If they made a law where someone cut you off, you could smash their windshield, I would totally take advantage of that law in that situation.
Okay, James. All right.
I was like, no, because I don't like that because you're cutting the line.
Cut that out.
No, I'm not. You're cutting the line, dude. Do you know what it is? It's disrespecting everyone else. And you're not respecting everyone else's time. That annoys me. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
you're right. People wouldn't do that. They wouldn't like just cut in line somewhere or like
do that at the grocery store, man. Bring that same energy. See what happens.
Don't bring it to my lane. Don't bring it to my lane.
They'll be like, hey, we're literally all right here, my guy. Go. Yeah.
I would literally take some dude's shopping cart, just flip it over in the thing and be like, pick it all up.
Yeah.
No one's gonna help you.
With your shopping cart, just bunk.
No. I would grab his shopping cart and just flip it over like King Kong style, like just throw that stuff over there.
Yeah. Like, somehow I feel like you'll be the one banned from the Safeway or whatever.
I know, right? Yeah, not that guy. They're like,
weird how that works.
I can't believe he did that. That's so rude. All you were doing was cutting in line. It's like, all you were doing was cutting in line. Yeah. It'd be like the last thing. That would happen to me. I'd go like viral in one of those videos for that stuff. But I also, I just don't like people being rude to other people. That like, it wouldn't even be that you cut in front of me. It's like you cut in front of an old lady or like a lady with kids or something. And I'd be like, nah, son, this is not okay. You know?
Yeah.
To me, I'd be like, whatever. I don't care that much. But like, you did it to everyone else, and that is rude. Like now, I feel like I'm stand up for the group. So I've yelled at people for the group before, like, you know, where there's been that one person that does something like rude for everyone else and like, hey, what are you doing? Hey, no, it's not okay. And everyone's like, yeah, not okay, right? Like, then everybody's behind you like, hey, that guy's yelling, like, yeah, we can yell too, you know, type thing. So never got me kicked out of anywhere, and I've never been viral for it, but you know, someday, I guarantee you, someday it's gonna. I do
sometimes wonder, you know, like back when I was in college or whatever, if like the internet was what it is today, like, you know, how many of us would have been on the wrong side of a viral video or just, you know, Instagram posts that you look back on, you're like, oh my God, you know, like we didn't have space pages, you know, and that's dating myself a little bit, you know, but goodness. Yeah. We just put cool song lyrics on our MySpace pages.
I don't think did I have a MySpace? I think I did have a MySpace for a little bit and then I got rid of it. I'm not a big social media person because it's like I don't really care that much. Like if you know me or you like me or whatever, then we're cool. Then whatever. You know how to get a hold of me. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't need.
I actually noticed that when I noticed you weren't on Instagram when I was posting the last time I was on the pod here. No. And I was like, oh, I'll tag James. What a nice thing of me to do. And I was like, oh, James is not on Instagram.
James does not live on the internet. He is away from all that stuff. I can't. It's too much. It's overwhelming to me. And so
I go through phases, right? Like either I'm like really in it and I'm like, you know, oh, let's comment on a bunch of people's stuff and just let people know like, hey, thinking of you. I think it's nice, you know, like it makes people feel good to be like, oh, look at my likes and like, oh, so-and-so's thinking of me. And then there are other times where I'm just an absolute ghost. And then randomly I'll like come back in and I'll post like a couple times through the week and be like, look at this really cool thing my daughter's doing. And I'll be like the proud dad. And then I'll be like, hey, I'm at this event, you know, and then I'll go quiet for 2 months. So it's not predictable in the least.
I'm only active on LinkedIn, and that's not. I'm not even. I don't post things on LinkedIn. I'm just on LinkedIn. That's like the only thing I really am. Although I do give advice on Reddit sometimes, and that goes. Yeah, so. It depends. Like I try to give good advice. Like, hey, this is what I've experienced. Your mileage may vary. And some other people are like, that's stupid. Why would you do that? I was like, I just
downvote.
Yeah, and you're like, come on, guy, relax, okay. So
interesting that you consider Reddit social media. Like it is, but it's also like, I don't know. I think of Reddit like, and I'm like, is it social media per se?
I don't know. I don't know what I mean. I don't know what you can actually. I don't know what's considered forums for sure, but I do try to help other comedians who have questions and stuff, and people like in similar situations where I'm like, hey, I have this thing that helped me. Maybe it'll help you. And I've only gotten really in trouble like a few times where it's like, hey, here's some links to things like people that I've interviewed or whatever. And they're like, why are you self-promoting? And I'm like, I'm literally not trying to. I'm just trying to share information, and I happen to have that information.
I swear I'm trying to be helpful.
Yeah. So I'm really careful about that. I try not to, and I'm not a self-promoter. That's probably one of my big flaws in the world is I'm not out there like, everybody look at me. Like I don't
Yeah, exactly. Like humility won't get you far in this day and age.
I know. Unfortunately, I should just show my butt more often, and everyone will like my photos.
Maybe we should get on the wrong end of a viral video. Like, who's this idiot? Let's get him a show. We're missing out, James. Trying to be good guys in this world.
Right. I try. So that's the thing. So 250 episodes. I have learned a lot. I've seen a lot. We've experienced a ton. I love every single person that listens to the podcast, that's ever watched even 1 minute of this. Like, I appreciate you. Just know that I don't do this for me. I don't do this for Luke. Luke doesn't do it for me. We don't do it. We did it. We really started it so that we could talk to people and take all that knowledge and share it with as many other people as we can, because not everyone's going to have the same opportunities, right? We know that in life. That's just how that life works. Maybe you live in India, so you're not going to get to talk to, Barry Katz, or you're not going to get to interview whatever it is.
Danny Hawawini. Yeah, exactly.
Danny or David Studebaker, or Robert G. Lee, or like Chris Cope, who won Big Sky, or like a bunch of these other people that we've had.
Incredible.
You may never get to talk to them ever in your life, right? You may never have any interaction with them, but we had the interaction. We asked the questions that we were hoping you would also want to ask, so that we could get the information to give to everyone out there. Michael Palisak, and like, there's just so many people we were able to talk to, and it just, I feel blessed that I can share that. That was the real goal. That's always been the real goal behind the Clean Comedy Podcast, is sharing the information that we get with everyone else, so that when someone goes, hey, what about this question? I can be like, hey, we talked to this person and they had the perfect advice for that, and not to say, hey, look at me, I got that advice. It's like, but here's the information for you type thing.
Yeah. Here's somebody who's done it, who has some experience. And I mean, honestly, what's I think kind of cool too about that is maybe I have a question that was asked of a couple of different guests, and now I can get a couple of different opinions on something I'm really interested in. So yeah, I mean, it's 250 episodes, obviously nothing to sneeze at. There's a lot of really great information, a lot of great advice, a lot of great stuff to come from that. So yeah, no, that's anytime you have that kind of as a resource, you're doing good work.
The goal is to get to at least 365, so there's one for every day of the year. So someone could just listen to an episode every single day of the year if they wanted to.
That is a binge.
Yeah, and never run out. Like, okay, now I can start back in January and start over again and gain, because you're gonna pick up new nuggets every single time you listen to it. Because there's some podcasts I've listened to the same episode like 18 times and picked up a nugget every single time, just because that person was like interesting to me or whatever. And I was like, oh, yeah. Like Judd Apatow was on Barry Katz stuff, and it's like I probably listened to those episodes, I don't know, 20, 30 times. And I love Judd Apatow, and he started like I did. That's the other thing, is he kind of inspired me, because he started asking comedians questions. He interviewed Jerry Seinfeld and a bunch of, so I was like, oh, that's genius. Like that's, I stole it from him. That's literally what it was like. Oh, if I ask questions, then I have that information and I can share that, because that's what he did. He wrote the book, or he did newspaper articles, and then he could share that with more people. It's like, okay, that's genius.
Yeah. No, and that's awesome, because it always, Judd Apatow obviously is an incredible inspiration and resource and all those things. But I think what's so great, especially about comedy, is like the thing that clicks, or like if you're watching someone on stage, like the funniest joke you've ever heard, it doesn't always necessarily come from the biggest name that everybody's heard of.
Right.
Like, I love comedy that it's subjective. And, obviously the way we perform, sometimes you're seeing people that have been a bit more successful in their career. And sometimes it's people that are just doing this, and trying and doing, smaller clubs only, whatever it is, right? Just small local comedian. But like that show and that performance that night could be one of the funniest things you've ever seen. You don't have to be an Eddie Murphy, or anything like that to tell a really funny joke to that audience on any given night. And like, that's one of the things that I think is awesome, because any night you show up, it could be, it could be the best time you've ever had.
Yeah. One of my best times was we went to the Improv in Hollywood. I didn't know very many comedians that were coming around at the time, but Kevin Hart performed there before he blew up. Zach Galifianakis performed there that night before he blew up. It's like, it was just so interesting to see these people. And then later on, I was like, oh my gosh, we saw that dude do stand-up. Like, it was amazing. And like, Zach Galifianakis played the piano while he told jokes and stuff. It was so funny. It was like one of my favorite things. And I would never forget it. It was like one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I was like, man. Oh, and I don't know if you know this. I performed at Rodney Dangerfield's club in New York at Dangerfield's. Like, I've actually performed there. And Andrew Dice Clay did a special there. But it was Rodney's club that he owned for a long time. And
that's so cool.
It was like my dream. Now it's closed, unfortunately, which is very sad. But it was my dream to perform there because I love Rodney Dangerfield. Like, and I know his story. I know that he started a long time ago. He didn't do very well as a comedian. He sold siding and stuff like that. And then he went back in his 40s and became Rodney Dangerfield, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say the no respect bit isn't just a bit; it's very much
it's very much his life.
Yeah,
and that's the truth in comedy thing.
It's funny when you're kind of in those orbiting circles, like you mentioned, watching a pre-famous, Kevin Hart, Zach Galifianakis. When I was performing one time at the Improv, the headliner for one of those shows was a comic. His name's Sammy Obeid, and he's Middle Eastern dude, just like me.
Wait, even Sammy
like
my
brother.
Sammy Obeid. Yeah, I love him.
Yeah. Like even my brother like looked at the flyer and he was like, this dude looks exactly like you. But it was funny because we were just hanging out in the green room and I'm performing, he comes on after, whatever. And then all of a sudden I'm seeing like, oh, he's like on shows and like he was on some like Netflix show and I was like, oh Jesus, like he's good for him. Like he's doing it, and it's just like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Like I was there with him performing the same night, his trajectory was just a little bit different than mine, but it was still just like, it was funny. It was cool.
I always assumed that David Studebaker would be on a TV show already. I don't know why I thought that. I really did. I really thought like he'd be in a show like New Girl or something like that, where he plays like a weird friend type of character. He may not be like the main character, but he's like that character in the show. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, he would be like a bank robber on like Brooklyn Nine-Nine or something.
Yes, or like a con. Actually, he'd be a good con man in a movie. Like, because he gives off like the I'm the nice guy vibe, he would be a great con man in a movie. Because you would never expect he's a con man. You're like, oh, he's nice, super nice.
Just like real life. You would
just like
never expect him to be so terrible in real life. Don't let the on-screen persona fool you. That man is
he's a monster.
He's just awful. He'll take you down at the knees when you gotta, when he has a chance.
He'll put you in your place if you're his friend. He'll let you know what's up. Like, he's not gonna pull punches with you if you're his friend.
Yeah, like if the group text is talking too much Marvel stuff, I mean, he'll jump right in and he'll change the subject. Well, fighting stuff.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I love it. I wish him the best. I know he wanted to be here tonight to do this 250 because it was really important to him too. He's just busy with doing other projects, and I don't blame him. At least he's doing it, man. He's doing the things I wish I was doing sometimes.
All we can ask for, man. Just doing it.
Danny, is there anything you want to plug or anything that you want to put out there for everybody?
Hey, Clean Comedy Podcast, doing great stuff. Obviously, unofficial Disney Tonight Show as well. I'm on all the socials. Again, Danny Hawawini, hard to find many variants of your old boy here. That's about it, my friend.
All right.
Love being on for the big milestone.
Yeah,
250.
250. I can't even. I'm grateful to everyone for listening. Thank you so much for listening. Please like and subscribe. Please go to YouTube and subscribe. Even if you don't watch an episode, just subscribe. We need to get to 1,000. Tell everyone about it. Please, it's our 250th. If each person could go for every episode that we have, just get one person to do it so we have 250 more subscribers. That would be awesome. And then we would go to 750, and then we'll do this again. Let's do it. Please help us get to 1,000. So if you're listening in a regular podcast, just go over to YouTube. Go to YouTube, click my name, go James Creviston, or type in Clean Comedy Podcast. It'll come up. Just subscribe. All you have to do is subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. You don't have to watch anything. That's it. And I would be more than grateful. I am already grateful to all of you anyways. More than grateful to do that, because I would like to get 1,000, because once we have 1,000 on YouTube, the good part is we can monetize it. And then when we monetize it, we can get bigger names to come, right? Because they're going to look at it and go, oh, you have 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. All right. I'm more inclined to come, because we've had some people go, well, what's your numbers? And we tell them and they go, yeah, I'm going to need a little more than that, because I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. And I get it. People are busy. They have whatever, but please, please like, subscribe, go over to YouTube, subscribe. Make sure leave a comment on YouTube. That'd be awesome. If you have questions or you want something to answer, that'd be great. If you want to leave us 5 stars on iTunes or whatever thing that you use, that'd be great as well. We really appreciate it. We're so grateful. Thank you again for listening. Danny, thank you for being the co-host this week. We really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody. No problem. Thank you, and have a good week. Bye.
Bye.